welcome to episode number 12 of ISPC Tailboard Talks. Today, the title of our podcast is Training and Accountability. I'm your host, Mark. Along with me is my co-host, Jerry. How you doing today, Jerry?
I'm doing great, Mark, man. Thank you for putting this together again. An even dozen. We are in for a dozen.
An even dozen. Yeah, we hit 10 a couple weeks ago, a month ago, but yeah, number 12. It doesn't seem like that much.
No, and that's a lot of content too. So if you haven't listened to the previous ones, go back. We've had some really great previous podcasts, a lot of information, a lot of opinion, really good opinion, I should say. At least most of them are the ones that were mine anyway. Just a lot of cool stuff happening. I'm excited because I see that we're just now getting the ball rolling, really. I mean, we've got great guests lined up, and one today, which you're absolutely going to love.
I don't know that we ever really talked about it. It is sometimes a challenge to, all right, what are we going to talk about this week? And you know, all right, we already covered that. So what are we going to talk about? And a lot of times it really comes down to who our guest is and what they're about and what they provide to the industry or where they fit into the electric utility industry. And that a lot of times drives the conversations that we're going to have on each episode. So
we've got some good stuff on the way. And I know the guests that we're talking to, the guests that we're talking to today, and the ones that are in the works. You don't want to miss it. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcatcher yet, go ahead and subscribe now. The quick listens, you're not going to be disappointed. If you're in this industry, it's definitely something that pertains to you, and it is relatable. And speaking of pertaining to you and relatable, we have to talk about our sponsor today, something that is near and dear to my heart. This podcast brought to you by T&D PowerSkills, letting you take control of your line worker training. Things change quick in this industry. I mean, everything's moving and shaking really fast. You need a training program that is geared to help you stay in line with that. It's a comprehensive 78-unit curriculum. It's designed with the adult learner in mind. It takes into account all the adult learning styles. You can control your message by customizing the program to meet your needs and your training yard requirements. Control your delivery with the flexibility to scale from a single unit refresher app to a fully licensed DOL certified 8,000 hour apprenticeship program. And you control your costs with flexible delivery models that scale from companies with just a few crews to large utilities, IOUs. This thing, I'm telling you, if I weren't working for this company, I would want to have it and be part of it because it is a phenomenal program. I believe in it. It is something that you need to see to believe yourself. All you got to do, easy, shoot me an email or look us up, tdpowerskills.com, tdpowerskills.com. And if you use the referral code Tailboard2024, I'll give you an exclusive 5% listener discount. Tailboard Talks, proud to sponsor it, man. So tdpowerskills.com, look me up.
Yeah, so TD PowerSkills, great program. We got a lot of other training deliverables coming your way in the future here as well, so stay tuned for some of those. You know, you mentioned our guest, Jerry, and I'll just say this now, when it comes to our training programs here, is one of our biggest supporters and is becoming one of our very close partners in crime in developing a lot of our training content. So we'll touch on that when we talk here coming up in the guest segment.
He definitely knows about training and accountability.
Yeah, and so that's our ISPC Tailboard Talk topic today is training and accountability. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but very important in our world, right? Training and accountability. You know, OSHA says that we have to train our people when it comes to safety sensitive work practices, safety procedures, those types of things. But I think we here at T&D PowerSkills and ISPC take that a step further. And I know our guests today, they take it a step further at their company, but I don't think it's that way everywhere. And we need to get there, right? People, workers, no matter what level of the organization you're at, from apprentice to journeyman to supervisor to manager, deserve to be trained and be competent in the work that they do day in and day out, right? It helps reduce incidents. It helps, you know, with efficiency, proficiency, I mean, there's just a ton of positive gains out of training your people. And then, I think the biggest piece here, and sometimes the missing piece, is the accountability
Mm-hmm.
side of things, right? So not only is the company accountable to provide the needed training and resources for their people, but there's a big accountability piece on the individual, right? That when you show up to these trainings, that your company is willing to pull you out of the field for, you're not being productive part of the environment that day. It's up to you as an individual to come to that training session open-minded, ready to learn, and be accountable that whatever the topic is that day, whatever the learning is, that you're getting the most out of it that you possibly can. And just like you mentioned in T&D PowerSkills, Jerry, same thing with all the training we do at ISPC. It's all built around adult learning principles. It's delivered in a multitude of different ways, audio, visual, kinesthetic, all those types of learning methods we employ in our training at both our companies. And we do that so that the learner is going to come out of that training, and as long as they pay attention and participate, they should have no problem getting out and taking away from that training what was
Yeah.
meant to be
And
delivered.
look, you can train all day long. If it's not effective training,
That's
it's
right.
not going to be worth it. So that's what you have to also look at when
That's correct.
you are developing a training program, or when you hire a trainer, or when the trainer is actively involved in disseminating information and processes to somebody. It has to be effective, and all of these things have to work together, and you have to know. So you have to actively be watching. As management, you have to be watching your trainer and your guys, making sure that they're meshing, that they're gelling, that they're picking up what each other's putting down, right? And then as a trainer, you have to actively be paying attention to your people, that they're picking up what you're putting down too. So management has to oversee that, and because if you're too close to it, you're not going to see it sometimes. Everybody's got to pay attention to what they're doing. The ones getting trained have to pay attention to what they're being taught, why they're being taught it, and that's one of the things about effective training, especially in this industry and with adult learners. They have to know why you're doing this. The why is just as important as the how. And especially if you've created a critical thinker in training, in their training. Their training has to pertain to what they're going to use and what they're going to do. So, but yeah, you have to pay attention. The guys getting trained have to pay attention. The guys doing the training have to pay attention to what they're getting, and the management has to pay attention to how everything is working together. And if there's a gap in any of that, you got to reassess and relook at it. If it's not effective, it's not working. So
Yeah, and another key component to that effectiveness is the competency aspect of training, right? So you can go into a classroom and you can, like you said at the beginning, Jerry, you can teach all day long, you can train all day long, and if you do not have that required field competency part, right, where students actually have to take what they just learned and put it into action and physically do the work, you can't say that your training has
yeah,
been effective, right? Because you don't have that feedback loop to say, okay, what I just learned in a classroom setting, I can now go and put into action in a field setting and confirm that, hey, I took that knowledge in, I got out of it what I was supposed to. Now I can go to the field and actually do those tasks and show or prove that I learned what I was supposed to learn. So, very important part. That's right.
otherwise you're a
So,
theoretical lineman.
very important part there of training. And another thing that comes into effect in our training programs. Now, I can't say this across the board, but we also have for your people. A lot of times I think when we think about training, we think about apprentices, right? Your mind goes to apprentices, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about line training, but we can't forget about the rest of our workforce. right? Just because I now have the title of journeyman, or I now have the title of whatever, supervisor, manager, does not mean my training ends, right? So there's that whole, what we call either refresher or continuing education, whatever you want to refer to it as, is another key aspect that companies need to understand. Just because I'm a journeyman doesn't mean the learning stops. We need to, on a regular basis, continue to feed even our most experienced people new education, right? Things change, equipment changes, standards change. Everything is a constant evolution. And if we're not keeping our people up to speed, they're no longer going to be competent in the work that they're doing. So another very important thing that we need to.
Well, you also have to take into account loss. Somebody, one of our editors here and videographers here at the office, her dad said, think of your memory as an iceberg, and each memory is a penguin on said iceberg, right? As you get older, your iceberg starts to shrink and you lose penguins periodically. Just, penguins go for a swim, right? But it's harder. You have to, when your iceberg is full, as it is when you're an adult, to make a new memory, you got to lose something, right? So you have to combat that shrinking iceberg and the penguins that are falling off and the ones that just decide that they want to go for a swim or get eaten by a polar bear or whatever. So you have to replace your penguins periodically is what I'm saying. So that's, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you haven't done it in a while, make sure you get retrained on it.
Yeah. And that's another thing. OSHA states that if you are doing safety sensitive work and it has been more than a year since you have done that task, you must be retrained prior to performing that task. I can tell you, at least the companies that I work for, that was not part of the training program,
And a
right?
lot of companies, it's not, man. It's a pain in the butt.
That's right. They rely on, hey, you know it,
Right.
right? Yeah, it might take you a little longer this time, but should something go horribly wrong with that job that day, it's going to be a conversation on the back end for sure.
And especially if it's so easy to do a quick refresher, and it's not, you don't have to be completely retrained. You just have to be refreshed on it. And a lot of times it's,
That's right.
I mean, your penguin could be circling the iceberg. It just needs a ladder to get back up.
Yep.
So, it's little things like that don't require a full day's worth or a full week's worth of training.
That's
just,
right.
I forgot about that. That's what we have to do. So,
yeah, it's just a refresher. They don't say you have to go through the entire training program again. It's or course, but it's just a refresher.
Remember this kind of thing. And if you're looking for a way to help you do that, I've got a perfect solution for you. If you need a good refresher, the T&D PowerSkills program is modular and easily used for refresher programs or refresher training. Excuse me. So all you got to do is check us out online, tdpowerskills.com. Take back control of your training message, your training delivery, and your training cost. And here's one thing that I really like about it. We were talking about using it as a refresher. We have our learning management system. The great thing about it is it's accessible anywhere there's an internet connection. And if you have cell service on your phone and you get to a part of a job that you need a tailboard talk, you need to take a second, redo the tailboard on this job, do a quick refresher, bring up the video, and talk about it and watch it as a crew in the field. You can do that. It's so cool, so easy. All you got to do is check it out, tdpowerskills.com, allowing you to have complete control of your training. So that was a good segue, Mark. Thank you.
Sometimes I amaze myself how we run into the next segment and don't even try it really. So I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, exactly.
I just gave my secret away. So awesome. Well, we've come to the guest segment of our podcast today, and I always love this segment because we get to talk with some of the best and brightest in the industry, and today is no exception. We're joined today by Kody Morris, Transmission and Distribution Manager for Lubbock Power and Light in Lubbock, Texas. And I've had the opportunity to work alongside Kody several times over the last year, and always impressed with Lubbock Power and Light's commitment to their people and their commitment to making sure their people are competent. I've really been impressed with what they do down there. So, Kody, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me. Y'all queued me up right when so we just installed tornado sirens all throughout Lubbock, and they test them they test them the same time every week. So if you hear tornado sirens, we don't
Okay,
really have a
good. That's
tornado.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we don't want to go there for sure. Well, Kody, tell us. I always like to start off with every guest like this. Just tell us a little bit, and it doesn't. You can get in as much detail or as little detail as you want, but kind of tell us about your career journey to where you're at today. What brought you to the utility industry, and where you're at as manager of transmission distribution at Lubbock Power and Light today.
Sure. I was born and raised out in West Texas. I was born in Lubbock. Grew up in a small town about 50 miles from here, northwest. People ask where Lubbock is. I tell them it's 6 hours from anywhere. That's where we're at, right? It's a long ways from anywhere. But I've been out here my whole life. Graduated from a small town, small school. Tried college, like a lot of linemen. That wasn't for me. Figured that out pretty quick. When I was 19, I was lucky enough, blessed enough to get on with the local co-op there in Muleshoe, Texas. Bailey County Electric is where I started. I wasn't never going to cut it as a feedlot cowboy, and I didn't know anything about being a lineman. But I got started in the apprentice program there. I worked there for till 2008, and then I decided to come to the big city. Applied with Lubbock Power and Light. Was lucky enough to get on here. I worked as a lineman in our overhead department until 2011, and then I moved over to our service department. I ran a service truck for a few years, and then was promoted up to foreman in our service department. And in 2020, I was blessed enough to get this job, the job I've got now. It's my dream job, really. Got a great team, great leadership, and a great organization. So that's kind of my journey.
Awesome.
Just a lineman that's
yeah.
And Lubbock is growing, so you're having
and I think,
like a booming couple of years, right?
Yeah, Lubbock is growing. Lubbock is it's a great place. It's our little secret out here that's getting out.
I've visited a couple of times. I love it out there. So
yeah, I was just there last week, matter of fact. So in that growth, and I agree with Jerry, Lubbock seems to be growing, seems to be expanding. And so in doing a little bit of research to prepare for this podcast today, Kody, I noticed some things on your website. And so I thought we'd talk about a couple of them before we get more into the training discussion. So LP&L, the first municipality-owned utility in Texas to offer its customers a choice in electric providers. To me, so the company, I work for a large IOU. We have had electric choice in the territory I live in up in Pennsylvania, probably for about 6-7 years now, maybe even a little bit more. And so, I'm sure that was quite the change for your little organization to expand into that effort and convert to ERCOT and so on. So give us just a little background on why that was done and maybe the effort that took.
Sure. Yeah. So LP&L, we're the third largest municipal in the state of Texas, just behind
Okay.
Austin and San Antonio. And like you said, this move to markets and the move to customer choice and the conversion to ERCOT, they were really two separate decisions. They were intertwined a little bit, but they were two separate decisions. So to give you kind of the condensed version, until the early 80s, LP&L, we had our own power plants. We were able to generate enough electricity for the city. In the early 80s, we started having to purchase power. And by the early 2000s, we were purchasing most of our power. We were we'd outgrown what we were able to produce. So in 2004, we signed a contract to purchase 100% of our power. We had reached that point. And just a few years later, I think it became kind of clear to leadership at the time that we weren't going to be able to re-enter that agreement. So they started looking at options for the future. Where are we going to go in the future? How are we going to keep providing power? And, I think another important thing to talk about is until 2010, LP&L was in direct competition with XL Energy, alley by alley in Lubbock. So the entire infrastructure is duplicated. If we had a system there, XL had a system there. If we had a line in an alley, they had a line in an alley, and we were competing for the same customer base, in our city. Wow. So, it was a pretty hazardous environment to work in. I can tell you that. In 2010, LP&L, we actually purchased the distribution assets, XL Energy's distribution assets. So now we own both sets of infrastructure everywhere. I think around 2015, that's when we really started looking like what it would look like to join ERCOT and kind of open up the purchase power options throughout the state. And in March of 2018, the Public Utility Commission of Texas actually approved that move. And then kind of to go along with that, since our customers here had been really accustomed to having an option, to having a choice, to being able to choose who their provider was going to be, we opted to kind of make that a part of that decision at that time. So once we were able to get 100% of our load integrated into ERCOT is when we opened it up to the retail market, and that happened earlier this year, and it's been a pretty cool thing, interesting to see for sure. But getting to ERCOT, I know you asked about that, what that looked like. We did that in two halves. Since we had two systems, two sets of load, we really had to move our system and then the XL system that we purchased. We moved 70% of our system into ERCOT on Memorial Day of 2021. And then we moved the last 30%, which would have been the XL legacy system, in December of 2023. So, to do that, to build into ERCOT, we built about 140 miles of 345 transmission line just to get to them, because we're a long ways from anywhere. Our substation guys had a massive undertaking converting. We rebuilt our 69 system to 115, so they had to. There's a voltage conversion at 18 substations. We had to install these autos, 345 to 115 autos. We had about 28 miles of transmission lines that just had to be rebuilt for that to happen.
Wow.
And then countless distribution feeder projects at 11 different substations. So it was a lot. It was a massive effort. It was a very cool thing to be a part of and to see. I think that's one of those once in a career type projects that you get to be a part of and watch and get to see it happen. And it was a big deal. It was a really big deal, and really proud of our guys and our folks and just our whole organization. We pulled off something I think a lot of people thought we wouldn't be able to do.
That's impressive, man.
It is really impressive, because I know working at a large IOU and some of the projects that I was involved with in expansion efforts and so on, and what that took at a large utility, right? And stumbled over many a curbs and the challenges that were faced. So to do that as a much smaller company with a lot less resources and so on, that is very impressive.
To me, that tells me that LP&L is really taking their customers' well-being and future needs into account. I mean, you guys are planning for the future. You're planning for Lubbock to be bigger, and you want to make sure that there's no interruption in service by doing something this big.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So for sure.
So obviously, you guys support the community of Lubbock when it comes to power, right? We just highlighted that with the transition you guys have made over the last couple of years to customer choice. What else does Lubbock Power do to support the community? And I have one thing, if you don't mention it, I'll ask you about it, but that I saw on your website. But everybody expects you to support the community when it comes to keeping the lights on. But what else does Lubbock do to help the community? Because most electric providers do, And so I just wanted to highlight a little bit of that you guys provide for your community.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, like you said, first and foremost, our commitment is to keep the lights on and to be there when they go off and to get them back on. But beyond that, I've seen a really increased focus the last several years on education in the community, and our guys have really picked that up and ran with it. We've got some agreements with the local school districts. The city of Lubbock has a deal in our parks department called Safety City, where they do field trips out there. We've got an art flash demo that we bring. Just talk about electrical safety. Lots of programs within the city. Our guys have started participating in the bike parades and food bank. There's lots of needs in the community, and
Mm-hmm.
our guys that are they're in the community every day. We live here, we work here. It's really natural for them to want to step up and be a part of it, and just serve the community.
Yeah, and I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, most of your employees, if not all of them, are community members as well. So it becomes important to them to support those, efforts, whether it be by helping out in the community, donating to the community, helping the little league baseball teams, or the Boy Scout troops, or the churches, or whatever the case may be, right? It's important, to be there and to be that close knit community. And I think a lot of utilities do that. The utility I work for, again, large IOU, doesn't matter. It's very important to them to give back to the community wherever they can and show the support for the community and the things that go on in the community.
Yes, sir.
And then the one I saw on your website, Kody, that kind of equaled something that the company I used to work for did is so I noticed, obviously, if everybody doesn't know, Texas Tech University is located in Lubbock, Texas. And I saw a little article on there about how LP&L supports Texas Tech University, and more specifically on game days, right? And so up here in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
in Williamsport, we have the Little League World Series. And so we do the same effort up here while that Little League World Series is going on that you guys do every home game for Texas Tech, to make sure that almost at all costs, there's not a power problem, right? When you have 50 or 60,000 people sitting in a stadium and all of a sudden the lights go out or the power goes out, right? And nothing works. So
Yeah.
just tell a little bit about how your guys are supporting that effort.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, I forgot about that one, Mark. So thank you for that. That's a cool deal. So yeah, the Texas Tech night home football games, we have an underground crew that gets in there, before the masses, and gets their trucks in and makes sure that we got access to manholes, and we've got access to infrastructure, and then they're there throughout the game. They're there through the duration. Because those are our friends, our neighbors. That's our team too. We don't. That's the last thing we want to have happen is have a night televised primetime game and be in the news for a power outage that's
Yeah.
too long or whatever. And so yeah, our guys really enjoy doing that. We have obviously
I was
we get lots of
I was fixing to
volunteers
ask.
want to have that duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's our underground guys take care of that for us. They've been doing it for a number of years. It's a good partnership with Texas Tech, and we enjoy doing it. And we're just gonna pray and cross our fingers that we don't have issues, right? But if we do,
Yep.
we're there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So
Yes, sir.
good deal.
And fighting the traffic. If we had to respond to get in
Oh
there,
yeah.
it would just prolong that outage so
Oh,
so
sure.
much more than needed. So getting in there ahead of time, having what they anticipate they might need, and
Yep.
just being there is a peace of mind for us.
Being proactive.
Let's transition now a little bit away. Well, I shouldn't say away from the company, but let's transition a little bit more to, I guess I could say, Kody, you and your management team and what you do for the people that work for you. So, as I said earlier in the podcast, I've been there several times. I'll probably be there a ton more in the future. But I'm always impressed with LP&L's commitment to their employees. And so tell us a little bit about that. And I guess two things: how you support your employees, not only in training, but in their career development and that type of thing, and why that's so important to you. Because as an outsider coming in from the first time I came there a year ago, I just got that sense that you and LPL really truly care about supporting your employees.
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm glad you got that feeling because I feel like we do, right? This is a great place to work. There's great people here. These guys really do, you talked about our leadership. I mean, the supervisors, these department heads really do truly care. And, they want their guys to have everything they need to be successful. And I feel like we're definitely not where we want to be, but it's a dynamic environment. Anybody that says they are, I think that they're probably
Yeah.
not. But some of the stuff we've done this year, we actually brought on a full-time trainer. We've got an on-staff craft trainer that he's spent his career as a lineman. You've got to meet him. He's awesome. He's
Yeah.
fired up about it. He's been able to help us take a lot of these ideas and stuff we don't necessarily have time for to commit to. It's his full-time job is to help us come up with a way to get these guys what they need. You talked about the IOUs. We are in a public setting, right? We're funded by our ratepayers. We're not in it trying to make a big giant profit. So we're trying to be good stewards. So we're not always the most highest paid or whatever, but we want the environment to be we want the guys to be taken care of, to have everything they need to be successful. Give them avenues to learn and grow and develop and not just have the skills, or leadership training, or whatever we need to do, soft skills, craft, wherever it needs to be. And I'm lucky enough that to work for an executive team that really has bought into that, that will support us along the way there to do that. Another cool thing we've done that they've done is we actually have a new department here called our Performance Improvement Department. Is what they're called. They're focused on. They're going to be focused on helping us with our workforce, our integrations, all these computer systems and technology, right? I mean, that's a big challenge for us too, as it is everybody right now.
Yep.
And
For
and then
sure.
just business continuity, the different relationships we have within the city, within other departments. So, pretty excited about that too. But I feel like we're pretty forward looking, or try to be, and we're trying to get out ahead of some of this stuff and take care of our people and make sure they have what they need to be successful. We're revamping apprentice programs. I don't think there's a one size fits all there either. Substation training and lineman training can't be the same training. It just can't. There's got to be stuff tailored to the job, tailored to the craft, and we're really, really trying to take a good look at that and dive into that a little deeper too.
Yeah. So when it comes to training, not only do I think that you guys really support your employees in all aspects, but I think that LPL is committed to making sure their people are properly trained and competent. And I will tell you, not all companies are there, right? And so I think you guys go above and beyond. I just really am impressed with that. So why? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of know why, but like, why are you so steadfast, or why is LPL so steadfast that they're willing? Last week I was there for 3 days of training, and you essentially on one day had the majority of your workforce not in the field, right? Half of them were with me in the morning, half were with me in the afternoon. And then you pulled your entire substation group out of the field for 2 days to do training. I guess maybe a better question is, that takes commitment, right? Because now you're not getting work done, right? You're essentially pulling an entire work group out of the field to sit in a classroom and learn. And so how do you, maybe in your mind, justify that, right?
Yeah. So we want to be successful. We want them to be successful. If our folks don't have what they need to be successful, we're not going to be successful as an organization. So,
Yeah.
pulling them in for half a day to get some essential training that they can take out and it's going to benefit them professionally, but it's going to benefit us as an organization. The more that they know, the more methods they know, the more information they have, the safer they'll be, the more productive they'll be. I think that payoff is, 2 or 3-fold what the investment is, right? I mean, it's worth it, right? And you talked about the substation group coming in for 2 days. I mean, that's invaluable training and skills that they'll have for the rest of their career. And as long as they're here, we will be able to benefit from them having that knowledge and that skill set. So it's something that I think if your folks aren't trained and competent, your likelihood of success is going to go way down. And if you're not willing to pull them out of the field for half a day to teach them some of this stuff, I think it's going to be detrimental to you in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's part of the package, right? You mentioned earlier you might not be the highest paid, guys might be able to go work for a contractor and make $5 an hour more. Or heck, some guys leave for a quarter or 50 cents, but it's all part of the package, right? And it's been proven in some studies that especially the new generation want to learn, they want to be trained, they want to have the knowledge that they need to be successful. And so not only is it the right thing to do from a company standpoint, like you said, right, to make sure that your people are getting the training they need, but it's part of the package, right? It's part of what attracts employees to LP&L and then wants them or they want to stay, right? Because okay, yeah, maybe I can go somewhere else and make a couple bucks an hour more, but hey, here I have a great working environment. I got great leadership. They're willing to invest in me, on and on and on. And so it says a lot about the commitment as a company and how you treat and care for your employees that, hopefully drives them to want to stay and maybe be the next, someday Kody Morris when you decide to either jump another notch up the ladder or maybe your day comes and it's time to start that next chapter of your life and go enjoy retirement. But you want to build those people and provide an environment that they want to stay with you.
No, you nailed it. I mean, it's part of what we want to do. It's part of what we want the experience here to be like. We want it to be that. We want you to come to work and know that you are cared about truly. It's not just words, that we really do care about you. We want you to be successful, and this isn't an industry that you can not take care of your people in my view. I mean, you have to. I mean, you're putting them in positions every day that's, like y'all said earlier, not only does OSHA require it, but I think it's the right thing to do. You've got to take care of your people in that way.
Yeah, you don't get many second chances in this industry, and the people that take the time and take the want to share, or to care about their guys. You end up building that culture that ultimately, the trust. It's a trust-based industry, really is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It is. And it's twofold too for us. I don't know if you were going to ask me this, Mark, or not, but I think our industry also, when I started, there wasn't a lot of formal curriculum training. I mean, you went out with your crew, and when your foreman said you were ready to move up, you moved up. That's kind of how we did it. Whenever that happened 10 years ago, when this formal curriculum really kind of started coming into our, taking hold in our industry, I think we swung the pendulum the other direction. We went so far to this classroom, this set of books here. When you get through this, you're done. What we're really focused on right now is trying to find that balance that you've got to have. That's something our trainer's doing for us too. So every Wednesday, you talk about shutting a crew down. I drove out to our training yard Wednesday. We had a subject matter expert from every department, from overhead, from underground, from transmission, service department, out there working hands-on with our apprentices, going back through their stuff, making sure not only do they know the theory behind it, to Jerry's point earlier, not being a theoretical lineman, Some people call me a carpet lineman now, but whatever.
Yeah.
To actually being able to you know, make sure that they have those skills, that they have that physical
Yeah.
ability to do it. Our substation department's doing it now too. They're taking a half a day once a week and just training. I mean, just focused on just building their craft. So it's been a really cool deal to watch, and finding that balance as an industry. I don't think we're the only ones struggling with that. Finding that
No.
balance is it's dynamic. It's going to be continued, and we're going to keep trying to find it and work on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question about the commitment to both the classroom and the field training, because I think you guys are really committed to both. And I got the opportunity when I was down there last week to go see your overhead training facility, overhead slash underground training facility. And I also got the opportunity right next door to see the substation, the old I shouldn't say old, the repurposed substation that you're going to use to make a substation facility. And I am a huge proponent of hands-on training. It's how our people in this industry learn best. Let me just get in there and dig into it. And I saw that working with your substation group last week. We had a lot of great conversation and interaction in the classroom, but man, on day two, when we got into the field there and started, using the print reading that we just learned to help us with our troubleshooting efforts, I mean, these guys were having a blast. They dug in, they were, went right to it. And I think, in my opinion, our industry has been about 70-30 classroom field. Might even go to 80-20 in some aspects. I feel that should be flipped, right? We should be doing 30% of our training in the classroom and 70% in the field, right? We need to be training our people how they're going to work. I always give the example because it's the easiest one to give that almost anybody in the utility industry can relate to. But if you're doing pole top rescue on a bare pole, are you doing your people justice, right? You show me out in the field in energized facilities that are being used and feeding our customers where there is a bare pole that has no wire on it, no cross arms on it, no transformers on it. There isn't one.
Right.
Right? So why are we training our people on pole top rescue on a bare pole? It just doesn't make sense. And that can go to all aspects of training, right? That's, like I said, just the easiest example that most people understand. But we really need to train our people exactly how they're going to go do work, because it develops that muscle memory and retention. And hopefully, if something goes wrong, people are, oh, what do I do now? They
Yeah.
just react because they've trained it and they work it and they do it the same way all the time. It becomes a best practice, and bang, they can react when something doesn't go as they've planned it to go. And so I see, and you and I have talked, so I have a little bit more background in this, but as far as where you want to go with your field training portion of your training program, and I think it's awesome that you guys are willing to commit and make that effort happen.
It's like you said. I mean, they need to be training on how the work's actually going to happen. And, one of the things we're pretty proud of at our training yard, and I talked a little bit earlier about these alleys with the duplicate lines. We have a simulated alley, in our training yard that's got two sets of power lines, two sets of open wire secondary. We're still dealing with it everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
on both sides, and two sets of primary wires on our overhead system. I mean, we've got that simulated system just like that at our training yard, and those guys are able to actually work on how to set their trucks up, work on how to position their booms, and how we're going to actually maneuver through all of this mess without tearing a bunch of stuff up or burning anything down or getting hurt. So, to your point, right? You
Yeah.
can practice that stuff on a bare pole all day long, but you're getting a thunderstorm, and now it's your turn to set the truck up, and you haven't ever done it.
Yep.
It's going to be a challenge.
Practice how you play.
Practice how you play. Can't say it enough. It's just so important, especially. And again, we've said it a couple times. In our industry, a lot of times, if you make a mistake, you might not get a second chance, right? So last thing I want to talk about, obviously our topic today is training and accountability, and I think we've talked a lot about training. So accountability, I guess in twofold, right? So you have company accountability and you have employee accountability. Talk a little bit, Kody, about how LPL handles accountability when it comes to the training and the treatment of their employees, and then what LPL expects in the form of accountability from their employees to the company. So both ways.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good topic and one I like talking about. Because like what you just kind of talked about in our industry, accountability is huge, right? I mean, you're not going to get a lot of second chances, and if any, right, if you make a mistake. So being
Yep.
accountable and learning from being willing to admit you made a mistake and learn and grow from that mistake is huge. Being able to talk about it. So from the company standpoint, I think that, we want to set up a system and an environment to where our guys can fail safely, right? We want to have systems set up to where, we all, first rule of human performance is that, right? We're all fallible and everybody's going to make mistakes. Our systems need to be set up and designed in a way to where we're layered in a manner where our guys can fail safely, right? To where they're not going to get hurt, to where we're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna have a major incident. On the flip side of that, the expectation is you are going to work inside those systems,
Mm-hmm.
and if you choose to not work in those systems, the accountability is going to be swift and pretty immediate, right? Because we can't afford not to, and we care
Mm-hmm.
enough about you to not let you,
Right.
because this industry is unforgiving, and if you're not willing to have those hard conversations with the guys and get them to work in that vision, then maybe that's in the right place for you to be.
Yeah.
So speaking candidly,
Yeah.
but it's very much twofold. When something happens or when there is something, it's we've got to look and really examine the system that we set that guy up to work in, or where do we send them out to, what do we do for them, what system of barriers are they working within,
Mm-hmm.
do they have the tools they need to layer themselves appropriately, and if not, then it's on us to fix it.
Sure.
And if it's there and they're choosing to ignore it or go around it, or do something different, then that's a totally different conversation.
Sure.
But I think a lack of accountability from top to bottom, it takes us all. We've all got to be bought in and pulling in the same direction, or this isn't going to work. That's my take on it.
Jerry mentioned earlier about culture, and I think a lot of times when you bring up the word culture, where I worked, it was called constructive culture, and I think everybody thinks, oh, we got to be nice and we got to be, everything's lovey-dovey, and you can't have that hard conversation with your employees when you need to, and it's just the opposite. In order to establish that culture of caring and whatever you want to call that, you need to also look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, right? And I had some conversations with some employees when I was a supervisor that they get upset because I had a difficult conversation with them, and I'm like, man, number one, I care what happens to you, right? I don't want to see you get hurt. And number two, you ought to care enough about yourself to do the right thing, right? And so to me, it's not that everything feel good. It's having the fortitude to say, man, that isn't how we do things here.
Yep. No,
And
you nailed it.
that employee understanding that, you know what, you're right. My bad. It won't happen again. I can assure you, I'll do better, whatever. And so, to me, the accountability, if you want to get to that place culture wise where guys aren't afraid to say, hey, boss, I screwed up today, man. Here's what I did, whatever the case may be, property damage, I backed into something and dinged a bumper on a truck, or, whatever the case may be. Or I did some work and I didn't follow the procedure, right? I skipped a couple steps because I was in a hurry, right? And So getting to that place where we can have that culture, the training is so very important, right? To establish those work practices and methods and procedures and get people understanding what's right and what's wrong and what they need to do day in and day out when they're performing work. And then the accountability part is just as important, that if the company isn't accountable, like you said, Kody, to provide your people with what they need and what they need to be successful, and on the flip side, the employee having the accountability to say, all right, I know why we're doing this. I know why I need to follow the rules and do things the right way and admit when I did something wrong. It's just, again, it's a complete package that everybody needs to be bought into to get to that, level of culture where you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want a culture where everybody, all of us, are doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because we care about each other, we're going to look out for each other. We want to take care of each other. We all hear all the time, "I'm my brother's keeper." Prove it, right? I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Prove it, and let me prove it to you, and you prove it to me. I mean, and if we come to work that way every day, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and the other piece I always add to that is not only be your brother's keeper, but you got to be your own keeper, right?
No, absolutely.
If you can't be your own keeper, you sure as heck can't be your brother's keeper. So they go hand in hand in my mind.
Yeah, you're right. So sometimes that assumption can't just always be made, right? Like you got to take care of you.
Have the hard conversations with your employees so you don't have those hard conversations with their spouses at the funeral.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Well, Kody, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Glad you were able to take a little time out of your day today to chat with us. Again, I can't say enough, and it's just not because we work with you. I really am impressed at the kind of the level of commitment and so on that you guys have for your people and what LP&L is doing, both on the training side and the community side, and supporting your people. And we appreciate being able to be a little piece of that puzzle, and hopefully help you get to where you want to be with your training programs and your safety program. Thank you again for joining us, and it was a pleasure having you on.
No, thank you guys a lot for having me and for what y'all do in our industry. People doing what y'all do in the industry and doing it the right way is invaluable. So thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Kody, we'll see you at the Trainers Conference in February, right?
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
If you want to know more about the Trainers Conference, visit us online, tdpowerskills.com. The Trainers Conference and Trade Show coming up in February in San Antonio. We talked a lot about accountability, hands-on. You can get all of that with our sponsor, the T&D PowerSkills program. Accountability with the testing and tracking features, and the hands-on training with the field performance requirements, which is a key portion of the training program. If you want to know more about it, find us online, tdpowerskills.com. Give me a call, shoot me an email. I would love to talk to you about it and help you take control of your training message, your delivery, and your cost. The views and opinions shared in this podcast are the personal viewpoints of the participants and may not necessarily reflect the stance of the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction and its staff. It is highly advised to consult your company management before implementing any actions or policy changes. Please support the sponsors bringing you this content to you, T&D PowerSkills in this case. For more episodes of ISPC Tailboard Talks, subscribe in your favorite podcatcher. There are 11 others that you can listen to. Be sure to leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. ISPC Tailboard Talks signing off for episode 12. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Good seeing you. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everyone.